Welcome back to the Soul Collective podcast. I am so grateful you're here. Today, I'm joined by International Akashic Records Reader and founder of Align Within, Ashley Wood. Ashley, I'm so excited to talk to you today. Welcome to the Soul Collective podcast.
Thank you so much for having me, Emily. I'm so excited to talk to you as well and to share with everyone listening.
Yeah, I have so many questions. I really want to start by asking you what inspired you to get into the incredible work that you're doing in the world today?
Well, it's not so much of what inspired me, but more so of when I finally leaned into myself because this was always here. But for so many years, I denied myself and didn't listen to myself and didn't honor myself. And I think a lot of people can relate to that. Like we hear our calling within, we know what we're supposed to be doing. Yesterday or 2 days ago on Instagram, I asked people, if you could learn one thing about your soul, what would it be? And like 90% of the answers were my purpose. And I feel as though so many of us know our purpose within, but it can be scary. Like it can be scary to step into that. And for me, it was scary. We know our calling within, but it's like actually stepping into that. I grew up in a small conservative Christian town in southern Manitoba in Canada. And I had these energetic gifts from the time I was a child. Like I could see things and I knew things and I had certain dreams, and it was something within me that I really suppressed for a really long time, but it was always there. But I didn't want to talk about it with people. I didn't want to share it with people. I felt like I was a weirdo. And I didn't want to tell people about it. But then my gifts were just coming on stronger and stronger and stronger. And when I got pregnant, this was way later, when I was 30, when I got pregnant, I couldn't hide it anymore. Like it was so much bigger than me. It was me. It was like me saying, come home to yourself, come home to yourself, listen to yourself, trust yourself. Um, and sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you about that. That was actually a question that I had for you about pregnancy. And I've heard a lot of people speak about this, you know, experience of having their gifts heightened when they're pregnant. Why do you think that is?
Well, there are two souls in the body and two hearts in the body. Like that's pretty incredible when you think about it.
Yeah.
It's amazing. I felt my daughter's soul when she was in my body. I dreamt about her. I met her soul in my dreams when I was 3 months pregnant. I dreamt giving birth to her. She talked to me. She told me the life that she had lived prior to this one, the year, how old she was when she died, what happened, that she was in this space in between, that she couldn't wait to be with our family. Like it was just this amazing encounter with her soul. And when I shared it on social media, I was surprised at how many women were like, I feel my child's soul as well. And I think it's
Yeah.
just this really sacred time of leaning into all that discomfort and the unknown of a rebirth within ourselves and our own lives while bringing in another life into the world. And it's a sacred connection. Like it's a soul chosen connection. So it's a really
Yeah.
beautiful time and challenging, but beautiful.
Yeah, that makes so much sense. Do you feel like you and your daughter have shared past lives together before?
I know we have shared one for sure. And I learned about it when I was doing our workshop, Activate the Line Past Life. Um,
Wow.
I did it in October. I do it often. I'm doing it again this week. And yeah, I learned about it in that workshop.
Wow. So what are some of the, most incredible things that you've learned about yourself through doing this work?
Oh my. That I have a really tender heart. That I love very, very deeply. And that the more you open yourself up to this, and when I say this, I mean your soul, your energetic self, it doesn't slow down. And you realize that the growth never stops, ever. Like we're constantly growing, we're constantly evolving, we're constantly moving through different phases within our life. And so there have been moments where I'm like, I just want things to slow down. Like I just want it to slow down. And we can ask our highest self for energy to slow down. But when stepping really fully into yourself and living with your eyes open and awake and listening to your messages and receiving that connection, you're constantly growing and evolving. But it's also really beautiful because you can start to see patterns and you can start to really see from above, essentially. As I say that, my palms are like so hot. It's like you can see from above and see why things are happening and just have gratitude for every single experience, even the most painful ones, because you know it's for your higher learning.
Yeah, that's so powerful. Is there
Mhm.
something that I want to go back to your story? And was there something that really helped you step into this calling?
Yeah. So after I had her, um, it was like I was living a different reality. Like I was seeing spirit guides in our house in the middle of the day, and we'd go out for a walk and people would like come up to me and give me a message. I knew it wasn't them talking to me, like some like energy was talking through them to me. And I just was getting so many messages on how to move forward, what to do. I had lost my job when I told my employers that I was pregnant. They just said your contract will no longer be fulfilled. Convenient. And so I was like, well, what am I going to do? I knew I wanted to work for myself, but I didn't know what I would do. At the same time, after I had her, I was navigating really, really challenging postpartum anxiety and depression, which I now receive as a gift because it brought me back to myself. I realized how much I was denying myself.
Mm,
But through that time, through healing and through really getting clear on what it is that I'm cared about in life and what it was that I wanted to put my attention to, I was getting more and more messages and guidance of what to do and how to move forward. And it'd be simple things sometimes. Like I had a food blogging website at the time, and it was like, I need to make some money this week. And I would just hear, put your ebooks on for 50% off. So I would, and I would make more money that week than I would at an office job. Like I was like, oh, so this is how it works. Like it can work this way. This is amazing. Um, and then I got a message to start a podcast. And I didn't know what I was going to do with that. Like, I was like, okay, sure. I guess I'll talk about food and wellness and stuff. But it became very clear, very, very clear. I was receiving so much guidance. It was like I was hearing voices talking to me. You're going to be talking about your spiritual gifts. You're going to be sharing this with the world. This is what you're going to be doing. Um, and so I just leaned right into that. And I started my first podcast. It was about spirituality. And I shared my story and had all these different guests on. And essentially, the show documented my awakening because I had so much to learn about myself. Like everyone that I brought on the show would essentially reflect back something to me that was in myself. And I would just learn more and more. And one of the guests asked me if I had ever read the Akashic Records. And she's like, I really feel like that's something you should do. Like that's going to change your life. I had never heard of what they were, but the moment I heard it, it was like electricity through my body. And I was like, I need to know more. And so I got a book that day. I read like 3 or 4 chapters of the book and I was like, I know how to do this. And I entered the records one afternoon, April, what was it? April 1st of 2018. I entered the records for the first time, and it was just, there have been 2 moments that have changed my life, giving birth to my daughter and going in the records. Like those 2 moments were
wow.
profoundly changing. I knew that in life would never be the same again. And then after that, I just started reading for people and just followed everything that was coming through. And it's been an interesting road, and so much has happened in a few short years, but now we have a company and we teach this. And when I say we, I mean my husband and I, and that's the story.
Yeah, following your journey from the outside, it's like the words that are coming through for me are like trust and surrender.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I remember like you started your podcast, I think the first one was Manifest This.
You remember. That's so
Yeah.
nice, Emily.
Yeah, well, actually, I think listeners, how you can see what other podcasts are synergistic. I think a lot of listeners listen to Manifest This and now Align Within, or is it the Line?
Yeah. The Line
The
podcast.
Line,
Yeah.
yeah. And so, a couple questions there because I admired how you got guidance to switch and start something new, and you just trusted it, and it seems like that's been sort of just a reoccurring theme throughout your entire journey. And I think trust is something that a lot of people struggle with. So, like, what advice would you give there?
That was a moment where I really had to check my ego. And our ego wants to keep us safe. Like our ego wants to keep us in something that keeps us safe. And even if that thing is no longer in alignment or is deeply uncomfortable or is even hurting us, our ego will be like, stay here, you're safe. Because our ego keeps us like it's our survival. It's like, you know how to do this, just keep going, just keep going, just keep going. And so when I was receiving the guidance that Manifest This was no longer in alignment for me, that was back in October. And I closed down the show in at the end of December. But in October, I remember I saw a woman who channels the Pleiadians, and I channel the Pleiadians, and I just felt a little bit lost, and I needed something reflected back to me. And she was like, no, like you can't be doing interviews right now. Like you need to find your voice. You need to be doing your own episodes. Like she was just telling me all this that I knew within, but I wasn't ready to receive it. And that's the thing. We get our messages on time. Like they
Mhm.
come through on time, but you're right. Sometimes we don't trust it enough, or we don't feel like we can surrender to it, or we don't believe in ourselves enough. And that's always the ego telling you, you're safe where you are. Don't go into that unknown territory. You're safe where you are. But as the months kept going on and kept going, I mean, this was the end of 2019. I could feel the energy shifting. I know a lot of people could as we were moving into 2020. And I was out for dinner with my husband one day, and we were talking about it. And he's like, you just got to shut the show down. Like, you just have to stop and do a new show. And something within me felt so excited. And I was like, yes, that is what I have to do. But I was terrified because I had just reached 1 million downloads, and I was like really building a show that people knew about and were listening to. But
Yeah.
at the same time, I was looking at some of the comments on iTunes, and like, people can leave reviews, and some of them were not very positive. And I was like, I feel like people are feeling the energy kind of like sizzle out here. Like
Mhm.
I could see it, I could feel it. And I was like, I just have to trust this and move into something different and trust that it's going to be okay. Like the Pinnacle have said for this month anyway, April, in the lesson from the records, when you fall into a field of flowers. Like just believe that you'll fall into a field of flowers because you're supported. And I was like, this is going to support me in my growth. It's really not the end of the world. Like it's going to be good. So I just gave it a shot and I just tried, and it encouraged me to believe in myself more, to use my voice more. And now I'm having guests on a bit more often again, but it really helped me grow as a teacher in this. And that's how I knew what the purpose was. But we can always ask ourselves when we're being called to do something that's pushing ourselves out of our comfort zone, like ask yourself, why am I not trusting myself? Is it my ego like keeping me safe, like keeping me here? Ego doesn't want you to grow. Ego wants you to stay exactly as you are. Your
Yes.
highest self wants you to grow. And in that moment, it was a growth opportunity. So I took it.
What are some other moments in your life where you took a big leap like that?
Oh, so many. So many. Um, what are some others? Well, I guess not going back to work after I had my daughter and just
Yeah.
believing that I could work for myself, even though I had never done it before. I had been food blogging for years and never made any money because I wasn't in it for the right reasons. Um, but I just surrendered. I'll never forget the moment when I was in our dining room in our old house, and I just looked up to the sky. I was crying. I just said, universe, I will do anything. Like I follow, I surrender completely. I fully surrender. Just show me the way. And I followed what I was given. And it takes courage, but also when you are in that alignment with your highest self and you are in that full and complete trust with God, the universe, you will not be led astray. Like you won't. Sometimes you will be led into situations that are incredibly challenging and hard on the heart. And you'll be sitting in such discomfort and you'll be like, why did I walk myself into this? But it is all designed for soul learning and soul growth. And that's why we're here to experience a wide range of emotions and a wide range of experiences. And so I just put all of my trust into God and Jesus and the Holy Spirit and the universe and the pinnacle and the Pleiadians and the Octarians and all the light beings and myself.
Yes, you just said something so, so powerful that I just want to mirror back to you. And that is just, you were talking about throwing your hands up, to the universe and surrendering and just saying, I'll do whatever it takes, and then we'll get guidance where it's like, well, you need to, share your own teachings, or you need to start a course, or you need to move, or something that feels like really scary and big. And sometimes, we don't always have the courage to act on those intuitive hits or guidance. And I
Yeah.
think the more that we do lean in and surrender and trust, it's like the more that it unfolds. Like we don't get that guidance unless we're meant to act upon it.
Exactly, exactly. And I know 2021 has been really, really challenging for a lot of people. For myself personally, it's been harder than 2020, just in terms of the healing and the growth and whatnot that I've been experiencing. It was like 2020 cracked us open, and now our hearts are open in 2021. It's like, okay, start cleaning up the mess. Like we all are carrying so much, and it's a tender year. Time
Yeah.
is moving very quickly, but it feels very, very raw and very tender. And because of that, it has required a lot of trust, but also a lot of surrender and just allowing for the discomfort and allowing to move through it and allowing for everything to slow down as well. And sometimes we'll like really push that aside and try to just move into something that feels somewhat normal and like try
Yeah.
to escape everything that's happening around us and within us. But it is so, so, so important to lean into that. It is exactly where we are growing, and that trust, yeah, like it's there. And what I was going to say actually too is that there have been many times this year where I've just felt like being quiet because of healing and learning. And I have been like, I've gone quiet a couple of times, which I never, ever, ever did in the past. I didn't allow myself to. But then I got the message in April of, don't silence yourself. Like, even when you're in hard moments, don't silence
Mm,
yourself, because that's also the ego sometimes being like, it's okay, just stay over here. It's okay. It's okay. Take care of yourself over here. So it's knowing that fine line of, when do you push yourself? When do you act on those messages? When do you put yourself out into the world? And when do you also take care of yourself and say, maybe I'm not quite ready yet, and that's okay. I will get ready. Like I'm listening to it, I'm responding to it, and I will get ready. So, and that all comes, I mean, it's all learning. It's a journey.
yeah. Yes, yes. And I love that, you know, what's one of the things that I really love about your work is that you're teaching people how to access the Akashic records themselves. And I
Mhm.
think there's something so, so profound in giving people the gifts to be able to unlock that for themselves. I think it's awesome to have, an intuitive reading or a psychic reading or Akashic records reading. And I've also taken a course where I was taught about going into the Akashic records, and that was such a powerful experience for me, not
Yeah.
knowing, and I want to get into it and really, explore, but that experience of just tapping in was so profound, and it'll always stay with me. And I think it's something about having the ability to do that for yourself.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And I mean, we're receiving information from our Akashic records 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Like we teach about the line, and the line is this energetic line that's running through your body. It comes from the universe where the Pleiades star cluster is actually. And if you can see stars where you live, you'll be able to see the star cluster. It's where all of humanity, the history of human souls, the history of souls are stored in the Pleiades. And that's where our energetic line comes from. And it comes down through our body into the earth. And this is where we're receiving messages and guidance 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Like, you can call it your intuition, your gut feelings, your inner knowings, messages, downloads. That's all coming from your Akashic records, because it's coming from your soul history, and it's guiding you to um, grow and move along your aligned path. It's coming from your highest self. So everyone is reading their Akashic records in a sense as you receive this information. It's coming from your Akashic records. But yes, we have a course that's called How to Read the Akashic Records with the Pinnacle that I'm going to be updating very soon, because there's new information that's coming to it.
Oh, exciting.
Um, yeah, and over 1,000 people around the world have taken it now and have learned how to read their records and have gone on to build businesses online, reading records for other people, or they've taken it and applied it to their life in very creative and interesting ways. Like we had I think she was a naturopath and she took the course, and then she opens the records for her patients
Wow.
when they give her permission. It's just such a there's so many things that you can do with it. Like an animal communicator messaged me the other day and she asked if the course would be suitable for her because she wanted to open the records of animals. And I said, yeah, of course you can. It's very empowering when you can come back to yourself and know that this is within yourself. Like this is your soul history. Yes, it's lovely when people can guide you and support you. And like I have an astrologer and I have an intuitive healer and I go to them, but it's always a mirror back to what we
Mhm.
already know within. And no one knows you better than yourself. And every single person on this planet can read their own Akashic records because it is your soul history. Like
Mhm.
that is you, that's within you. And we just give you the tools and the guidance on how to access it for yourself. But it's incredibly empowering when you can incorporate this as your daily practice and receive this information for yourself. But I can also teach about the line activation since this is a video and people can see it.
Sure, I would love that. And I want to ask you first. I know you have a module that's about
Mhm.
clearing the line. And so, you're sharing that everybody can access this soul history.
Mhm.
And yet there are certain things that maybe we need to do to clear the line or to activate the connection. Can you share maybe some of the things that maybe get in the way of accessing that and then how we can clear some of that clutter?
Oh, absolutely. Looking at other people. Number 1. Number 1 problem. We are taught to look at other people. We're taught to look at other people to know what to do, to know how to be, to know how to make a decision. I mean, this is the first time in human history that the energy is supporting us in self-sovereignty and like coming back to ourselves and listening to ourselves. That is what we are to learn right now is to
Mm.
anytime you have a question, listen to yourself first before you ask somebody else. But throughout history, we've been taught to look at other people, especially right now. It's like do it for other people, listen to other people. Like the whole, it's just wild. And that throws us off so much because it's a disconnect from our highest self. When we're looking to someone else from the answer, we're not listening to ourselves. And we're picking up our phone and looking at an influencer. What did they do? What did they eat for lunch? How did they work out? Like it's taking it away from what our body is communicating to us. And so be incredibly discerning about the information that you take in outside of yourself and be very, very aware and also disciplined of how often you look to other people for an answer. Come back to yourself and actually challenge yourself to listen to yourself. And then also, I mean, there are so many different things like what you put in your body can
Mm.
feel dense and heavy depending on how you are eating. And I'm not going to prescribe a certain diet or anything because we're all unique and have our own individual needs, but eating close to the earth, like eating foods in their whole form, um, eating what feels good in your body and learning about what feels good and what doesn't feel good, drinking a lot of water, expressing your emotions, breathing deeply, going into nature, like actually touching the ground. And even if you live in a big city, there's dirt in a big city. Like there are trees in big cities. There's a sky in a big city. Just being out in nature. And then also just being mindful of where you're putting your energy as well. Like we're always going to be giving our energy to other people. We live with energetic exchanges as human beings. We're giving our energy to people, to things, to thoughts. Like just be mindful of where you're putting your energy and how much are you keeping for yourself as well.
Mm. Those are so many great tips that I just want to unpack a little bit. For you, is there like a certain diet that you feel best or most connected with?
I've been vegan for 10 years now and I was vegetarian when I turned 8. So I haven't had meat in my body. I'm not going to tell people don't eat meat, but for me it is a lot lighter. Like I mean, I don't even remember what it feels like in my body, but it's compassionate for me and it's a choice of love and seeing all sentient beings as equal. So, yeah.
And what about like coffee or like
Oh,
sugar? Do you notice a difference in your body when or do you drink coffee?
I don't drink coffee right now. I haven't since I got pregnant. So it's been since 2015 that I've had coffee, but I drink decaf sometimes. I love it. Um, Sugar, I don't have sugar other than a dark chocolate. I have it every day. And I sometimes have these little no, I have sugar. Yeah, like these little gummy bears that my daughter has that are covered in cane sugar, but it's organic. So I'm like, oh, it's fine. I don't have it all the time. But for the most part, I eat very, very, very simple, like very
Mm.
simply. Like this morning for breakfast, I had a coconut yogurt with a bit of granola, raspberries, hemp hearts, and cinnamon. Now I'm having a green juice. For lunch, I'll have miso broth. Tonight I'll probably have like vegetables and rice. Like I eat super, super simple, and I don't actually
Yeah.
eat a lot either. Like I don't need a lot of food in my body to feel nourished, but everybody is different. And I go through different phases too in life and different seasons of where I need different foods. And right now I'm not eating a lot. Like I just don't feel like I need a lot of food.
Yeah, I love that you bring that up and the connection with the physical body. And I've just been paying such close attention to that recently, just like how I feel in my physical body, what foods I'm consuming,
Yeah.
and how that like correlates to how energetically I feel and how my
Mm-hmm.
intuition feels, like all of those things, and I think it's so important because sometimes we forget
Oh
how
yeah.
important, and I think one thing I noticed about the work that you do was about the connection with breath work and movement.
Yes. The line activation. Yeah.
Yeah, which I love. I'm in a breathwork membership, and I do that almost every day. And I noticed that I just felt intuitively guided to move my body during those periods of time, and just how powerful that combination was, like the physical movement and using the breath. Um,
Mhm.
yeah, and so I love that you're teaching that.
Yeah, and this actually came through for me as a way to literally activate your awareness and connection to the messages that are running through you because it mimics the direction that the energy flows. Like it comes from above, moves down through your body, then the messages go into the earth to be activated because when we receive them they're energetic transmissions. Like it's just energy, and we are energy but we're also physical. So we need to bring this energy into the physical. And so when it comes down through the midline, it goes into the earth to be activated and brought into the physical realm. And then these messages come back up into our body and we can receive them as intuition. And of course, this is happening so, so fast. But the line activation, like it mimics that movement. And with the breathing and the motion, the movement,
Yes.
yeah, it activates your awareness to these messages. So I recommend everyone bringing this into their daily practice if it aligns with you and if you feel inspired to. I can quickly go over how to do it, or I can give you a link to a
Yeah,
tutorial.
please. Yeah, if you could
Okay.
share, that would be great.
Yeah, for sure. So you're going to want to start with your hands above your head, like not touching your head, obviously, but at the, like right up here in prayer position. I'll explain how to do it and then we'll do it together, or I'll explain it and we'll just go through it together. So you're going to have your eyes closed while you're doing it. And you're going to be taking deep breaths in through your nose and out through your mouth. So you're going to start up here and you're going to take a couple of deep breaths in and out just to arrive to the moment. And then when you begin, you're going to either inhale or exhale, whatever feels good for you and natural for you, and move your hands down your body until you get to the midpoint, which is when you notice that your hands start to split, you're going to want to keep your middle fingers together. And when your hands start to split, then you move them back up. And this is about 4 to 6 seconds. Don't worry about counting it, but it's slow. So if you're doing an inhale down, you'll do an exhale up. Inhale down, exhale up. And you're going to do this 4 times. And the reason why it's 4 is because 4 mirrors the natural world. We are the seasons in the natural world. We are one with the natural world. And it's come through for me that this is a full cycle of transformation when you complete something in a cycle of 4. When you begin to notice how often 4s are communicated to us, like in either our thoughts or I don't even know. There are so many examples. Like 2020 was a year of 4 because 2
Yeah.
plus 2, and it was like a huge, it started a cycle of transformation. There are
Yes.
4s everywhere. Anyway, so don't get too caught up on doing 4 if you're like really in the zone and you've done only 3 and it feels finished, or you've done 5 and it feels finished. That's fine. But the practice is 4. So the second thing is, where's your mind going? Like, that's the movement and the breath. Where's your mind going? You can either have your mind fully open and just allow whatever to come through, like whether it be just a sensation in your body or a word or a thought, even if it's your own like thinking, just receive it as. Or you can ask a question of like, how can I show up as my highest self today? As an
Mm.
example, how can I remain in alignment today? What's a mantra I can use today to help me connect to my heart? Or you can just like allow whatever to come through. And then after the practice, you sit in activation. So once you have completed the 4, you just sit in stillness for as long as you feel. And that's when you can also ask questions and allow information to come through. And then always write down everything that comes through, everything. Even if you don't think that it's important, like if it's just a word or an idea or a thought, write it down. So that was like a super fast tutorial, but should we go through it together?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, and then everyone watching can do a line activation as well. I'm not going to
Yeah.
talk, like I'll kind of guide us through, but for the most part, we can all go through it and enjoy it. So you can start by putting your hands above your head and close your eyes and take a couple of deep breaths in and out through your nose to just arrive here. And then when you're ready, begin. So you can sit in activation as long as you'd like. Sometimes I sit for like 5 minutes, 10 minutes, other times only 30 seconds. It really depends on how you feel. Did you receive any messages or guidance or anything while you were doing that?
The energy that I felt and like the heat, especially when my hands passed, from my heart to my, you know, above my crown chakra was so powerful.
Mm-hmm. It's so beautiful.
Yeah.
Sometimes the energy is all that you need to know too. Like I just got certified in Reiki, and wherever you're feeling energy on the outside of your body, like there's something there too. So if you're feeling heat around your heart, that alone is a message. So you can sit with that and think, why is there heat there? Is this an energy that feels good? Is this an energy that feels a little heavy? What can I learn more about that? Like we're always receiving guidance, and people in our community are sometimes like, well, I didn't get anything in my line activation. I didn't get anything. I'm like, no, you got something. There was something there.
Yeah.
You just have to dig deep. And then that comes back to the trust and surrender of yourself, of really connecting with your physical body, your energetic body, which is your soul, and just allowing anything at all, like to just be curious and to have fun with it. There's no right, there's no wrong. It's all curiosity and learning.
Yeah, I think the curiosity part is so important,
Yeah.
just asking for more information. I love that. And I love how you call it a line within. It really is such an empowering way of thinking about like a line coming down within the physical
Thank
body.
you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
What inspired that name?
Oh, it wasn't me. It came through me. Like everything. I was in the shower one day. The word, the line had been coming through since the very beginning of my Akashic record practice, but I couldn't figure out what it was about. Like I had no idea what the pinnacle, who are the energies I channel, their Pleiadian energy. And now I channel Arcturians as well, but this was the pinnacle. I couldn't figure out what they were talking about. And they would talk about like the hotline and connect to the hotline. And that's how I was interpreting it. And I was like, hotline bling, like Drake, what? Like, what is this? And I'm like, who says hotline? Like I couldn't figure out what they were talking about. And it was like over a year of these random little clues. And then all of a sudden, it just came through so clearly. I was in a Marma treatment with my friend Purnima. I talk about her all the time on my podcast. And she does these, or not anymore, but she did do these Ayurvedic Marma treatments wherever you live in any city. If you can get a Marma, like they're amazing. And I was in that treatment and all of a sudden, like, it was like all of the guides who were working with me just like laid it out for me and like told me exactly what it was. And then I left her house and looked up and there was this like line in the sky. And I've since seen it a couple of times and everything just came so clearly to me. I'm like, I get it now. I understand what they've been talking to me about. But I didn't know what we would rename our business. Like at the time, it was just under my name and I was solo in it. But we knew we wanted to bring my husband on and just completely rebrand and like actually create a company and not myself as a service provider. And then one day I was in the shower and I remember just like running out of the shower because I just heard it. I was like, it's a line within. It's a line within. And it just like came through. And my husband was like, are people going to understand what that means? And I said, it doesn't matter. That's the name. Like that was what has come through. And that became the name.
I love it. What's it like running a business with your husband?
It's interesting. And it's interesting. We work so well together. Like we work so well together, but the challenging part is to not work too much. And like, we can just work all the time and spend our days and nights because we parent full time as well, working. And then we talk about work and we both love work, but it can really take over our lives very quickly.
Yeah, I can relate to that as well. My husband and I are both entrepreneurs and yes.
Yeah, you can just work forever because it's fun. It's fun and we both love it. But at the same time, yeah, like my parents are like, do you have a life outside of work? And I'm like, well, this is my life.
Yeah. We started talking about this before we hit record, but what is your sun, moon, and rising?
I'm a Gemini sun. I am a Leo rising and I'm an Aquarius moon. So I'm having quite the time right now with Saturn on my moon.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And Jupiter.
What has that been like for you?
Incredibly challenging. Yeah, it's been really challenging. It's been a hard year, but also expansive in terms of growth. And I feel like I'm growing a lot, but my energy and my emotions have been all over the place. It's been really hard. I won't lie. Like it's been hard, but I always remind myself, my soul chose this in this moment for growth and I'm strong enough to handle it. So that's just what I told myself.
Yeah.
Saturn, yeah. Our employee, Kelsey, just always tells me she's going through her Saturn return right now. And she's like, Saturn's a vibe. And I'm like, Saturn is a vibe. Like anytime Saturn comes up, it is a vibe.
That's such an accurate description. Absolutely. Yeah, I wanted to ask you about soul purpose and how you understand it and how that moves from lifetime to lifetime. Do you see that as like a pattern or that we come into each lifetime to learn a different curriculum, or does it build upon?
No, it doesn't build upon because we can have completely opposite lives, but this is where we have to think outside of linear because it's not like our first life was, let's say 200 years ago, and then you just keep moving up the timeline. This was fascinating to me when I would read the Akashic records for people and their first life was in the future. And then like it just bounces all over time.
Wow.
It's not linear because energetically everything is happening at once. Of course, physically things move in linear. We see this, like we see people, we're born, we age, we die. So we can measure time in linear, but in terms of our energetic and emotional experiences and how they're connected to our other lives, it's not linear. So they're all contrasting with like a main specific theme and I don't want to say purpose, but it really depends on where our soul is from and what we've like come in to learn about and to grow. We're all on a different path and a different journey. It's not like there's like one soul document outline of like, you can't evolve until you've learned these things. Like we're all moving through so many different experiences. That being said, I do believe that at the core, there's our highest self is our true nature, our true light, our true self. And so that follows us through every single experience, every single life. And we can come into a life like as a completely different person with a completely different experience, but that highest self, that true nature is always there.
Hmm. Do you believe that we select our personality prior to incarnation, or it's something that evolves and develops throughout the course of our life?
Oh, we select it for sure. I think so. I think that we select, not necessarily select, but we know our aligned path and like we know the highest version of our soul in this life. And then there are infinite probabilities of other experiences that we can have. And the growth is to make the choices that are in alignment, like to follow the messages that are coming through. But every single experience is going to grow us. Every single experience is going to lead us down a certain path. There's one path that's aligned and then all the others that are not as aligned, but it's not like it's right or wrong, if that makes sense.
Hmm. How can we jump timelines?
Oh, I did that recently and I don't even know.
Really?
Yeah, I did. Um, through past life work, as you're clearing things that you've been carrying for hundreds, maybe thousands of lives. As I said that in my peripheral vision, there's like glitter right there.
Ah,
That happens often. Um, when you notice that you've been carrying something, either a pattern or an emotional behavior or something, and you may not even be fully aware that you've been carrying it, and then you move through the release of it, it can feel like you're jumping timelines. I released something pretty huge um, only this month in April. And I released it through an experience and then a Reiki that followed, like a Reiki session that followed. Two of them actually way more than two, but two big ones. And it felt in my body like I had jumped timelines. I got a little bit sick. I felt so different. I felt ungrounded. My thoughts were everywhere. My emotions were everywhere. And it all of a sudden felt like I didn't know myself. And I had to like really come back to myself. It was probably, I'd never had that experience before in terms of, and I don't want to say that's like jumping timelines, but it's clearing timelines and healing quite a lot. And, oops, and it brings you into this timeline in a different way. And I don't know if it really shifts and changes what you're experiencing going forward, but you can definitely feel the healing and release of what has happened.
hmm. Yeah, I feel like it's when we do that big work, like the self-love, self-worth, investing in ourselves, or taking a big leap of courage and trust. It's like we were able to.
Yeah. Have you experienced that?
I have recently, actually, and it's something that I've been thinking about, but it's like always asking myself, what is in my highest, potential timeline right now in this
Yeah.
moment, and acting on guidance, even if it feels scary.
It's funny that you said, or that you asked me, have you jumped timelines? Because I said in a voice note yesterday, I feel like I jumped timelines and I hadn't really talked about that much. And I don't even fully know what that means within myself, other than it's the only way that I can really describe what it felt like.
Yeah, it's so interesting. I think that we're going to start experiencing that more and more.
Oh,
And
yeah.
just like the acceleration of time is like the potential to be able to tap into that will be
Yeah.
fun.
Like, can you believe it's almost May in 2021? Like, we're almost in the fifth month. We're almost halfway through this year. And it's
Time
just
has
wild.
moved in a completely different,
Yeah.
way of being than last year. It just is a completely different energy.
Yeah.
And
And it's so interesting that, like, where do you live?
I'm in Tampa,
You're in
Florida.
Tampa. Oh, bless. You haven't experienced as much like in terms of like lockdowns and stuff. Like Canada, it's just been so crazy. It's just so crazy. But I was gonna say, I feel like too, just because the world is operating in a certain way, it feels so different. Like you're just at home a lot and time, like the days are just, it's just so different. And sometimes I
Yeah.
just want to like surrender into this and be like, there's a purpose of this, of like just understanding this time differently, even though I don't agree with like 90% of what's happening. There's a purpose for this. It's like surrender and understanding. But yeah, it's
Yeah, that's so true.
interesting.
Yeah, and I love listening to your energy update, and I do tune into several different, whether it's astro forecasts or energy updates, and it's so interesting to notice like the common themes,
Hmm.
that are being tapped into, and like you said, I love your interpretation of like this year being healing, and it's
Yeah.
almost like processing in a
Yeah.
way.
It felt like 2020 was like, just shake it all up and like crack it all open and now figure out what you want to do with it going forward.
Yeah,
Been told like the pinnacle channeled through to me in October, you can no longer hide from yourself in 2020. And then 2020, our hearts were activated wide open. You can no longer hide from yourself. And now that we're fully exposed, what are we going to do with that in 2021 and going forward? Like this is Aquarian, the dawn of the age of Aquarius. Essentially, we're moving into this time. And that is celebrating the self and honoring the self, but then bringing the full self to the group. And so we can't actually become me until we are we, or sorry, we can't become we until we are me. And that's why we do the work that we do. I'm so passionate about encouraging people to trust themselves and learn about themselves and know themselves and guide themselves and lead themselves, but then come as their full self to a group of other people who are this like also their full selves and celebrate each other's uniqueness and celebrate each other's differences. And that's really exciting that we're moving towards that.
what are you most excited about on the horizon with the work that you're doing?
Um, well, I'm writing a book right now. Pardon me. My husband and I are co-authoring. Well, it's by Ashley Wood with Ben Wood. Um, and so that comes out in May 2022. And that's been a very long process, but I'm excited to get that into the world. I'm currently developing a new workshop all about the soul and like going deep into the soul, knowing where your soul is from, like which star, which planet, where you travel to within your soul awareness and the experiences that are happening at the same time, and knowing your purpose and understanding like on a really deep level who you are at a soul level. So
Mm,
that should be out soon. We're in the process of a rebrand, which is exciting. We're redoing all of our courses, like just revamping them all, which is exciting. This year it really is about like foundation, I guess, for us again, like rebuilding a foundation, because everything
yeah,
just happened so fast. We're building a team for the first time, which is really exciting. And we'll be having products out hopefully within the next couple of months. And so there's a lot happening, and that's exciting.
that is exciting. Do you and your husband have the same vision, like creatively?
Um, I think so for the most part. Yeah. We bounce ideas back and forth. And like I do all the channeling and get all the like clarity on what to do. And he's very like analytical and strategic and like that kind of planning, like that side
Yeah,
of it. Like I'll have an idea of something and then he'll like say, we need to do it this way to maximize everything. And I don't think that way. So it's helpful to have the two brains.
absolutely. Yeah, I love that balance. One question I wanted to ask you is about soul family, soul contracts. Um,
Hmm.
and what are some of the ways that you understand the way that we choose to continue with soul family in multiple lifetimes?
Oh, bless. This has been my learning this year. Um, there's a difference between soul contracts and soul family, and this is going to be in the workshop as well. So, soul contract is usually someone who comes into your life for a short period of time and teaches you something. Like you teach each other something. It can be very painful. Like it can be like someone who there is no love there. There is no like gratitude in the moment. Like it is a challenging relationship. But then when it parts or whenever that contract is completed, you look back and you're like, I learned so much from that person. And they learned a lot from you as well. Of course, with a soul contract, there can also be love, and like appreciation, but it can also be pretty challenging. Like some people who have done our past life workshop and learned about soul contracts of people who have like abused them and really challenging, really dark, challenging experiences, but they learn the purpose and the reason behind it and like why the souls had designed that, which is also hard to wrap your head around. I never want to say someone chooses something like that. Going through that deep work, you can have a much deeper understanding of the experiences that you have had. Then again, soul contract can also be like two friends that come together and learn something and then part. Soul family, you're from the same star family. You're from the same energy. It is deep, deep love there. And you usually have been through hundreds or thousands of lives together.
Mm.
It's a love that is shared always, that never, ever dies. Like it never ends. It spans time and space. You're not necessarily in each other's lives permanently. And like, it's not like you come in and then you're in each other's lives forever.
Yeah.
But you will teach each other quite a lot. Again, this can be painful. A lot of people think soul family is going to be their romantic partner. And that can be really challenging too, because there's just so much energy there that it's not always supportive. I dated a soul family member.
How did that go?
It was beautiful. And then it didn't work. It didn't last because it didn't work. But you will always learn from these people. And there are also people who will visit you in your dreams a lot and help guide you. Like they're guides for you in this life and you're guides for them as well.
How easy do you think it is for us to find our soul family members?
Oh, they
Like,
come to you.
yeah. Do you feel connected to a lot of your soul family in this?
Let me just do a count. 1, 2, 3. I know 5. Yeah, I know 5. And at the moment, 3 of them are in my life. One of them is my actual cousin, like in my family.
Yeah.
But we're not very close. And like we when we talk, it's deep, very, very deep, but we're not very close. And we've always said we're close, but we don't spend a lot of time together and we don't live in the same place.
Yeah.
And we both believe that's for a purpose. Like we come into each other's lives and share wisdom and connection and then kind of part.
Yeah. What a powerful.
Do you know your soul family or any of them?
I feel like there's a few people in my life that I feel that's deep, deep soul connection with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like a really, 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 it's a love that's deeper than human. Like it's a really deep love.
Yeah.
And for one of them recently, I was like learning of telepathy and like hearing each other's thoughts and feeling the like physical sensations within the body together. It's been really interesting.
It's funny that you mentioned that. Yeah, because I'm actually a twin, and I've been thinking about telepathy for a lot recently, because I think that's one way to practice that skill as a twin, because you're constantly communicating without words. So interesting.
Yeah, we all know how to do it. It's just a remembering.
Exactly. Oh, Ashley, this has been such an amazing conversation. Anything else? Any last words of wisdom that you'd love to share?
I think that for everyone listening today, just make it an intention, set an intention to listen to yourself at least once. At least once. Like if you have a question in your mind or you want advice on something or you just receive one of your messages, just listen to yourself and trust yourself at least once and take action on whatever it is that's coming through. Even if that is as small as like, I don't know, like myself today, we were supposed to be on the call at 9 o'clock and I woke up not feeling that great. And I went outside and I lay on the ground, and then I went and sat by the river, and then I got a notification on my phone that our call was in 10 minutes. And I was like, oh no, I haven't even showered. But in that time, somehow energetically, I was like reset and I was able to bring my highest self to this call. And so, although it seemed like everything was mixed up, I followed myself on going outside and sitting there and lying there and trying to come back to myself to like have an aligned day in love. Just following the trust and allowing things to be reorganized if they need to be, like really surrender to the divine flow. Yeah.
So beautiful. That is so beautiful. Thank you, Ashley, so much. Where can
Thank you for
people?
having me.
Yes, yes. Thank you for being here. Where can people go to connect with you and learn more about all your offerings?
You can come to Instagram at ALN Within. The website is alnwithin.com, and you can click to the podcast through the website. So just the two spots is all you need, Instagram and the website, and you will find everything there.
Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me, Emily.